Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Untitled Chapter live on Twitch. I missed you guys, and thankfully, we've got our event for real this time. I'm going to be insanely surprised if there's no iPhones next week. Oh my god, can you imagine the chaos that would ensue? Can you imagine the stock price and how it would fall? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. I thought the invite image was pretty neat, pretty cool. And you know what I'll say? For the past few announcements I've ever seen, Marquez is the first one in my timeline to tweet about it. So, I know he's popular and everything, but I'm just saying, if there is someone that has some type of early access to leaks or something like that, or it's early access to certain announcements, it would definitely be Marquez. And something makes me wonder if he gets something slightly early and is told to tweet it at a certain time, or is supposed to tweet it way beforehand, because I feel like he's always the one, like the first the iMac refresh we got a few months ago. I remember seeing that from Marquez first. The iPhone SE, I remember seeing from Marquez first. Same with this announcement. He gets stuff, I think, a little bit ahead of time, which is why it always shows up in my timeline before everything else. No. Give up on 120 hertz. It's over, Shadow Bullet. It's over. Just give in. Give up. It's over. Only changes are coming to the iPhone. Squared off edges, Qualcomm modem for 5G, A14 chip. That's it. People are overhyping it. Not true at all. Up on a car. They're changing the design. They're changing their form factor. They're changing their displays, and it's the first 5 nanometer chip design. If this isn't a big upgrade to you, I don't know what a big upgrade is. There's never been a big upgrade if OLED displays coming to cheaper models, which has never happened before. Every OLED iPhone for the past 3 years has been $1,000 or more. This is the first time we're getting OLED iPhones for cheaper. It's a chassis redesign, which happens very, very rarely. Even the iPhone 10 didn't get a chassis redesign because it was still the same rounded edge as the iPhone 7. It was just stainless steel. Not saying this is bigger than the iPhone 10. I'm just saying when it comes to iPhone changes, this is as big as an iPhone upgrade gets. Okay? We're talking speed enhancements, we're talking new form factors, we're talking new chassis, we're talking new displays coming to the cheaper models. All this stuff does not happen every year. This is not the kind of thing that you should just, well, yeah, every year we get new screen sizes. Yeah, every year we get new form factors. Every year we get the same different chassis. No, not at all. This is way bigger than the last 2 years. That's for sure. That name's taken. Thank you for the Twitch Prime sub for 22 months. Appreciate that. That's a long time, almost 2 years. Let's see. Nice t-shirt. Thank you, Mike. This is an oldie. This was from the 2018 Quadruple UDC, but I'm still rocking the shirt. I think I have too many Talos of shirts, to be honest. I used to just buy every design that was made, and then I started realizing my entire wardrobe was just branded merch, so I actually need some more regular shirts to wear when I'm not working. Oh well. Despite this being the biggest iPhone upgrade for years, it still hasn't really caught up to Android phones in terms of hardware. Hardware isn't always objectively, but I mean, Android still hasn't caught up with iOS when it comes to CPU or software updates, so I would argue that's why this is more exciting, is because, people are actually going to buy these phones instead of buy them and talk about them for 2 weeks and send them back like so many Androids. The Snapdragon chip still can't keep up with A13 and God knows the A14 chip. Who sent that? CJ Hack? Thank you for the 100 bits. Appreciate it. Yes, they announced the event in case some of you didn't know for some reason, if you're not watching on YouTube. Apple did announce October 13th is the next event. More than likely going to be the next iPhone event. People look into the clues for the event. The clues never really result in anything. There's always been clues people try to deduct from every single event image, and it never results really in many confirmations or anything. 12 mini is the absolute best thing. I know, this is the smallest iPhone Apple has released in probably 6 or 7 years, and it's also the biggest iPhone they've released ever, just in terms of size. We're getting the smallest iPhone in a long time and the biggest iPhone of all time at the same event. So if you feel like this year isn't big, I'm here to tell you it's all downhill from here. There's not going to be another bigger event than this. There's not any changes to the iPhone that are going to be more major than this for the foreseeable future. iPhone versus Android isn't very relevant anymore. Yeah, there's advantages and disadvantages. It really comes down to software preferences. But the truth is, Android has always statistically... The reason it's stupid for someone to say iPhone can't keep up with Android in terms of hardware is because iPhone is one type of hardware from one type of company, and Android is like hundreds of companies releasing phones all the time. So if you're saying 80% of the world and all this other Android manufacturers put together have more hardware than what Apple can come up with once a year, well, yeah, obviously. It's kind of an unfair comparison. If you're combining every Android phone, because there's lots, it's not like there's one Android phone a year, but there is, for the most part, one major iPhone a year. So, of course, the hardware of one phone is not going to be able to catch up with every single hardware model of its alternative. Um, but there's still some segments where the iPhone still can pull ahead, especially when it comes to software support, when it comes to processor speed, when it comes to biometrics. And obviously, as we see in global shipments, that's why most people prefer. A lot of people end up buying iPhones, even though they don't. iPhone 11 and 10R were bestsellers, despite not having game-changing hardware, because software matters a lot more, I think. Simtime says CJ Hack. Thanks for the 100 bits. Do you think the Exynos chip made with the AMD partnership will compete with the A14? I'm sure it will compete. The question is it better? I'm guessing no, but I could end up being wrong. Though at the end of the day, I don't think it matters that much. I appreciate the performance and the effort Apple puts into their silicon every year, but it's not the main reason I buy iPhones. That ultimately comes down to software. So even if Qualcomm or Exynos ended up creating CPUs and GPUs that outperformed iPhones, I don't think it would change much. I don't think that's why most people buy iPhones. But it is nice that they have that great performance. Um, how popular do you think this year's accessories will be? Do you see AirTags selling like AirPods? Ooh, gun guns rack smile. Good question. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like AirTags are kind of unfortunate because Apple's been working on them for so long, but now the pandemic has hit and people are kind of home more often than away from home. So it's kind of an unfortunate time for them to just drop an AirTags update because I feel like most people couldn't really utilize them that much. And yeah, I guess tile trackers are somewhat popular, and Apple has a reputation of entering accessory markets and kind of dominating them. So maybe from the ease of setup and the ease of use of AirTags, they might end up becoming, the most popular in their segment, just like AirPods ended up outselling everyone. Um, but I just feel like I've had geo tracking devices before, and I never found them incredibly useful. Maybe I just haven't seen it done in a way that's very simple and easy to understand, and maybe that's what Apple is bringing to the AirTag market. But yeah, I just feel like they can't sell as well as AirPods, but is it likely that they will be the best selling of their category, like compared to tile trackers? Or I don't know of many others, to be honest. Tile is the only one that comes to mind, but yeah, I could see AirTags outselling every accessory they're competing with, sure. I Update OS. Subscribe with Twitch Prime for 2 months. I'm not sure if that's the actual I Update OS, but if that's you, Sam, appreciate it. Love your videos. Coda Man01, sub with Twitch Prime for 5 months. Do you think that the new redesigned iMac is going to have Apple Silicon, or will they add that later? At this point, I feel like they will only introduce the redesigned iMac when it has Apple Silicon. I know that there was some reports earlier in the year that there would be a redesigned iMac that was still rocking Intel, but I don't believe that anymore because since then we've got a refreshed Intel iMac. And now it seems like, yeah, they probably wouldn't unveil a redesigned iMac until they wanted to integrate Apple Silicon so that it actually, lives up to the hype of like Apple Silicon is not just for speed, but it also can allow us to make these great designs and that kind of thing. Oh, okay, it is actually him. Cool. Thanks for tuning in. What would AirPod Studios need for you to keep them? Ooh, CJ Hack donated 100 bits asking what AirPod Studio need. The thing is, I've never been much of a fan of over-ear headphones. It's a very personal preference type thing, I guess, but honestly, like, I've tried lots of different over-ears in the past that I've liked. I've had a few Bose. I tried the Surface Studio headphones, and I think it's something to do with my head. Maybe it's because I have a bigger head than most, but in my hair kind of sticking up like this. But whenever I put any kind of over-ear headphone on, it eventually starts to hurt this part of my head. Even nice headphones, even high quality like premium over-ears. And I've always just preferred the in-ears They're so much easier, they're so much smaller, and they're easier to store. I like being able to put them in that like mini pocket in my jeans. And I just love regular AirPods so much, and the only benefit I ever saw of over ears was the active noise cancellation, but now AirPods Pro can do that. So yeah, I they could be amazing. I plan on buying some to review, not to hang on to permanently, but at least to give you my opinions on them because I know they've been rumored for years now. So people probably be very curious what the Apple sheep thinks of Apple's first over ears. I think people kind of over exaggerated to the design. I know the design has leaked a few times now. Fudge, I think, tweeted out a photo of them. A lot of people are like, "Oh my god, that's disgusting." I looked at them and I was like, they seem fine. I mean, a little unconventional, but I feel like Apple needed to differentiate themselves from Beats a little bit because I think that was everyone's go-to answer was, "Wait, why would Apple make over ears when they own Beats?" And then all the conceptors were basically like, "Just design Beats headphones and put Apple logos on them." There, AirPods Studio, and I guess from a design standpoint, they wanted to stand apart from Beats a little bit and kind of come up with their own unique design. So I guess that's fine. I saw the design. I didn't think it was that crazy. They look fine to me. I think the main issue with AirPods Studio is going to be the price, and that's my prediction on how most people will review them. They'll be like, I mean, they sound good and they have some nifty features, but they're lacking some type of customization that my Sony's or my Bose headphones have, and they're really really expensive. So it's hard to recommend them. That's what I imagine most of the reviews are going to be. It's going to be similar to the HomePod, where it's like, I mean, the sound is good, but it's really pricey, and there's cheaper smart speakers out there. They look like they would have a lot of sound leakage. Yeah, that too. I can't say I'm much of an audiophile. I don't really review that many headphones. I'm just kind of the Apple guy. So I don't see what AirPods Studio would have over my current AirPods that I would love. Maybe battery life, I imagine, would be a lot better, but um, do you think AirPods Studio will have a USB-C to USB-C? Otherwise, latency might be an issue for video editing. Yeah, I mean, at least for charging, they're going to need a port on them of some kind because they're not going to charge in a case like the regular AirPods do. So I imagine that, yeah, it'd be my preferred option that for audio engineers out there who want to use AirPods Studio as a Mac accessory, if you're doing audio editing and Logic and that kind of thing, being able to plug directly in through USB-C, I think that would be great. I don't know for sure. I haven't really kept up to date with a ton of the leaks with AirPods Studio, but I believe at least a few people have said they would have USB-C for charging. Um, Really hope it's not Lightning. That would suck. Please don't be Lightning. I would be very surprised if they have the headphone jack. That would shock me. If Apple released headphones with a headphone jack that you couldn't use with your iPhone, that's ridiculous. I don't know. I think it would be a little hypocritical. I know that they're still making Macs with headphone jacks, but USB-C is, I think, the perfect bridge between the two. They could be like, okay, if you're just using it for your iPhone and your iPad, you can charge it with USB-C, or if you want to use it with your Mac with a wired connection, you can use USB-C. I don't know. Yes, the 2020 iPad Pro still comes with a power plug. They have not removed the brick from any iPad. If anything, they've actually upgraded it. On the iPad 8 this year, they upped it to a 20-watt USB-C charge brick, and before, I think it was just a 12. So they improved the charge brick this year on the iPads. Let's see. Will the Apple Silicon Macs be revealed at this event, or will that be saved for a potential November event? So, obviously, AvNub, no one actually knows, so we're all speculating here. But Mark Gurman initially tweeted that Apple was planning on doing 3 events over the past last half of this year. So they were going to do the Time Flies event, obviously, which we've seen, which was just for the watch and the iPad, which I thought was stale and full of fluff. And then this event will just be for iPhones, potentially a few accessories like AirTags and AirPod Studio, maybe HomePod Mini and that kind of thing. And then November, they will have another 1-hour event that's mainly about bringing Apple Silicon to the Mac, and maybe one laptop and one desktop. I don't know. That's very much speculation, and Gurman has not held a lot of weight on that leak. He just kind of passed it off like, maybe a November event. So it's possible that they might just unveil all the Apple Silicon at this event. I would actually prefer that because I don't like having to wait again and having to wait another month for another event, and go through all the hype all over again and speculate what's going to happen. I would rather have packed events. I'm for having less events that are more eventful instead of uninteresting, stale mini events throughout the year. So I think it would be really nice if we just got all the Apple Silicon at this event. But Gurman has a very reputable track record as of lately. He's been very accurate with the past few events and dates and when to expect things. So I would say just expect that there's going to be a November event just for the Mac. And don't expect any Macs next week. And if we do get them, it'll be a pleasant surprise. And we can be excited and happily impressed that there was something there that you weren't expecting. Though, at the same time, I get it. Yeah, we won't be entirely shocked if they unveil them at this event. But it will be cool. CJ donated 200 bits. If you could have any color Apple product for every product, what would it be? So I'm obviously a big fan of Product Red. So if they made a stainless steel red iPhone 12 Pro Max, man, I would be all over that. I'm really into Product Red stuff. I don't know if I would get red for bigger devices. Like, I don't know how that would look on an iPad or an iMac. I'm okay with those going with a bit more basic space gray silver. I don't really need the sky blue iPad. I'm not really into that. To be honest, but I would need to see it. Actually, the more I think about it, if I saw a Product Red iPad Pro with the red aluminum and it matched my watch, I could get behind that. Actually, I think that would look kind of dope. I don't know about a red iMac. I don't know. I need to see it. But pretty much that's my only interest is like red on everything. I'm really into the red just because it pops and it has such a very vibrant accent. So I dig the red stuff. Yes, it's the 12.9-inch iPad Pro behind me from 2018. Still my favorite Apple product to this day, by far. I love this thing. I use it every single day. It's severely underrated, and it was immensely ahead of its time. I'm so glad it has USB-C. It's super thin and light. No, it's not bent, and it has 120 hertz, and it has Face ID. Like, I use it. I love it. And honestly, I prefer using my iPad Pro over my iPhone for most stuff. Red Apple TV. I don't even have an Apple TV anymore. You guys know that? I sold my Apple TV to my parents because they needed one and they were asking if I had any. And I don't use mine anymore. We just use the Roku for everything. What if the event was just to promote Apple Fitness? Oh, my God. I hate it when you say things like that because it sounds believable, honestly. It sounds kind of like something they would do. Let's talk for 2 hours about Apple Fitness Plus. Hey, I got a new watch, though, so I should get 3 months of that. Guys, I'm going to lose so much weight. Ounces of weight. Thoughts on Android brands not competing? Seems like it's only Samsung and OnePlus these days. LG, Sony, HTC all died. Even Pixel is going away from flagship status. I feel like they're still competing. But, yeah, it's just kind of inevitable. You know, after a certain amount of time, people are going to flock to one or the other, and that's why we have a lot of duopolies in a lot of markets. It's kind of inevitable when strength in numbers is kind of a thing. When you get a lot of people on one platform, that can make that platform a lot stronger. So when you have that scale of iOS or that scale of Android, it becomes more popular. You know, a lot of people like iPhones just so they can have iMessage. And why do they like iMessage? Because lots of people have iMessage. So it's kind of like a strength in numbers type thing. And you can't really have 9, 10 best-selling phones when you have that strength in numbers aspect of different app markets, like the Play Store versus the App Store, that kind of thing. RCA 950, thank you for the 14 months of Twitch Prime. And he said, off-topic question, but when you vlog on your iPhone and airdrop the clips to your Mac for editing, do you lose the quality if it's in 4K or in 1080p? Not from what I've seen. It has nothing. They don't compress the files at all. They're just sending the files. So if you record in 4K and you airdrop it to your Mac, it should be the exact same file that was on your iPhone. Let's see. I think it's just the no much new to add, so might as well focus on cheap priced phones with features. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like Google clearly tried to compete with Samsung Galaxy and OnePlus flagships for a long time just by making high-priced phones, but they were lacking so much hardware and the software wasn't really making up for it, like Google was saying. So they realized, like, well, okay, we can't compete with the Samsung flagship, so let's start going more for the mid-range budget market because there's less competition there that we could go after. Google seems to do very, very well when they bleed profits because, like, all their best-selling stuff is, like, the stuff they lose money on, essentially. Like the Google Home Mini, now it's called the Nest Mini. I hate the naming, it's so confusing. But like the super cheap speakers sell really great. The super cheap Pixel 3a and Pixel 4a, those sell great. And their best services like YouTube, which bleeds money every single year. They don't make much money on that. That does really, really well. Google Photos, which is completely free. Anytime Google just starts giving away stuff for free is when they typically do pretty well. And yes, just like any Apple event, I will do a live reaction to it here on Twitch. If Apple is to drop a silicon iMac, would you upgrade to first gen silicon or wait? I've kind of been in the market for a Mac for the past like 2 years, but I keep waiting for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. The good news is I'm not in a hurry. My iMac Pro is still doing great. It's coming up on 3 years old now, and it's still running fast. It can still export everything I need, so I'm very happy with it. But I still feel like it's getting, it's kind of getting up there with age, and there's been a lot of new features brought to the Mac in recent years that I would love to upgrade to. So yeah, I'm somewhat interested in these redesigned iMacs, and yeah, I wouldn't mind buying into first gen silicon because I trust it, and Apple Silicon I know is going to be very power efficient and very fast. So if the performance obviously in the GPU is much better than what I have in my iMac Pro, and the design is good, then yeah, I don't need to wait until it's like I want to wait until Apple Silicon has matured and gotten better. It's like I'm not worried about speed. I have no speed complaints and performance complaints with my iMac Pro. Speed-wise, it's fine. It's just the design is pretty dated. And I would love to see basically iPad Pro, but bigger on a stick. So if they release something like that and the Apple Silicon was better performing than what I currently have, then yeah, I would totally buy that. As long as the price was good. Obviously, I wouldn't do it if it was like $8,000. That'd be too much for me. But yeah, for the most part, CJ, wow, he's donating a lot. 500 bits. Here's the rest. Told you it would simp time. I guess it was simp time with all your donations. Jeez. Thank you very much. Let's see. I'm curious if the new Silicon Mac will appear in October, or are we getting a November event for it? At this point, given how most products we expect tend to come out later than we think, like so many of us thought iPhones were coming in September, and then they obviously did not. So I would say if Apple is saying Apple Silicon Macs are coming by the end of this year, I assume that means the last week of December. Okay, so that, in my opinion, that would mean an event in November, and then at November they're like, and we'll start shipping these just next month. Pre-orders start beginning of December, and then the first deliveries are like the very last one. Like, everything's the last minute. So I'm going to say don't expect Macs at this event, but if we do get them, that's cool. Awesome. That'd be nice. Yeah, I'll try to review every ARM Apple Silicon Mac I can. Obviously, I might not be able to get every single Apple Silicon Mac, but the interesting ones, the ones that I think I have the most to say about or would be the most fun to interview, yeah, I'll buy to review, but I won't keep them. Google cut costs on marketing for Pixel 4a. Notice how you haven't seen many commercials on it. They're relying on word of mouth. Well, that's good, because those commercials were pointless, and they probably weren't convincing anyone. I don't know why, but I cringe at the Apple Watch ad campaign. If you find the Apple Watch ad campaign cringeworthy, what ad campaign isn't cringeworthy? I mean, all ads are at a certain aspect cringe because it's a video trying to convince you to buy something, and any video like that is going to have certain aspect of, ew, this is so cringy. When will we get an Apple Silicon Mac Pro tower that's upgradable and expandable? I expect that to be the very last thing to get Apple Silicon, to be honest. I think that, obviously, Apple said it's going to take around 2 years to transition to Apple Silicon, and I imagine the Mac Pro to be at the very end of that, like 2 years from quadruple UDC. So summer of 2022 is when maybe we'll get an Apple Silicon Mac Pro. But the advantages Apple talked about is it's mainly for good performance and low power consumption, which means that Apple Silicon is mainly going to help with MacBooks, and it will help making iMacs look more modern and thin and slim and that kind of thing. Basically just, again, blown up iPad Pro. But the Mac Pro Tower is, at this point, the least to benefit from Apple Silicon. until Apple can actually start producing processors that can rival that of, the 28 core Intel CPUs, which I don't think they're going to start off with. If iUpdate is still here, he did a great video about how Apple plans on rolling out silicon, and he brought up great points that, like, you don't want to start off with the greatest chip ever and then work your way down, because then it would just be underwhelming. You want to start off with the slowest and most basic Apple silicon. Hey, he's still here. Cool. I think it was Sam who did this, but yeah, he made a video about you start off with the slowest, most basic Apple silicon that would go in something like a MacBook Air and give you good performance and also give you great battery life. And then over the course of the next 2 years, you start unveiling and then the better one. And then next year you do the 16-inch MacBook Pro, and then after that you do a 32-inch iMac, and it has amazing performance. And then you save the very best for last with the Mac Pro. Plus, the Mac Pro basically just came out. I mean, the first deliveries of it were end of 2019. It's not even a year old yet. Some people spent $40,000-$50,000 on their Mac Pro, so I doubt Apple would want to unveil an Apple Silicon branded Mac Pro anytime soon. So yeah, I think Sam and I are in agreement there that, like, probably summer of 2022 is when Apple would unveil, at least, maybe not start shipping, but unveil an Apple Silicon branded Mac Pro. And frankly, I'm not exactly sure how they'll change it. Like, I don't know if you need the thermal design of the current cheese grater Mac Pro if you were rocking Apple Silicon. They might drastically redesign it all over again. And I'm not even sure how modular and upgradable it would be. Why do you think mobile games are so bad? Apple Arcade could have been a platform to release games like Pokemon, quality game with replayability and no microtransactions. Well, I mean, Pokemon's not owned by Apple, so they can't exactly do that. I mean, Arcade probably wants to find their own Pokemon, and from what I've heard, Apple's dumping a lot of money into it. But I think that's very subjective, Gunsrack. Like, mobile games being bad is not an objective thing to say. I mean, bad compared to what? Because if we're talking revenue generated, mobile games generate some of the most revenue in the industry. If anything, mobile games are going to start outperforming console and desktop games when it comes to revenue. Apple makes billions of dollars a year off the mobile gaming sector. But I get that some of us don't really consider the revenue generated to be what makes the game good, but it's very subjective what games people enjoy and what games people like. And, Apple's investing in a lot of different game companies right now, and they obviously, it's kind of weird. The Arcade subscription service wasn't honestly that, it wasn't really something that I think a lot of people do. I know there's subscriptions in gaming, like there's been GameFly for a long time where you can, like, rent a game and send it back and that kind of thing. But this isn't that. Arcade is like a huge collection of games that can only be played there, and they're exclusive to that, and they can't be bought elsewhere. And for that reason, they have to be kind of careful with, they can't put all of their efforts on one game, otherwise all the other games would suffer. And Apple's going for a catalog here. They're not going for one game to be great that you just pay $5 a month for, because obviously no one would do that. But some people like mobile games, some people don't. I just mean it's not something I think we can objectively say bad. If we're talking revenue-wise, they do pretty well. Let's see. I would like to see a smaller tower that's around $3,000 that's half the size with half the PCI slots that are still upgradable. Maybe the Mac Mini Pro. Yeah, I don't think they would call it that, but I would like something like that, because I always found the Mac Pro that Apple currently sells, I thought that was way overkill, and in my opinion, it wasn't a successor to the actual Mac Pro. It felt like they went off into a new product category that they weren't present in before. Apple sold expensive computers before, but they weren't in like the $40,000-$50,000 price range. The old Mac Pro, the trash can Mac Pro, maxed out. That thing was $6,000. That was the most heavily configured one you could get. And for Apple to follow up that Mac Pro that starts at $6,000 and maxes out at $50,000, I'm like, how is this even in the same category? I mean, other than the name, this is basically a completely brand new Mac that we didn't have a sector for in the past. So It's fine if Apple wants to enter the $40,000-$50,000 computer market, but I don't think they should call it the Mac Pro. Pro is an understatement at that point. I would have called it the Mac Enterprise. Like, this is clearly just for businesses. Like, your customer base is Disney and Pixar, like giant companies that have millions of dollars. That's the target market for the Mac Pro, not just like what the old Mac Pro was, which was for like, you know, video editors like me, certain video editing companies and that kind of thing. They just went so overkill with it that I wouldn't have said it's a follow up to the Mac Pro. I like the Xbox Game Pass idea where you can get the game via subscription, but you could still just buy it outright. Yeah, I prefer buying things outright, to be honest, which is why I wasn't a huge fan of Apple Arcade. There were a few games I liked on it, but nothing I would pay $5 a month for. Nah, the iMac Pro is not a great middle ground because, for one, it's not super upgradable like a lot of people wanted with the Mac Pro, and it goes up maxed out, I think, or $14,000. There's not a product just called the Mac. The Mac is a genre, but they could do something like that. Pro is not an actually pro. Yeah, it does feel sloppy. The Mac lineup does feel kind of cluttered. New iMac is better than the iMac Pro for the most part. Yeah, I agree. There's some aspects the iMac Pro is better, but overall specs wise, yeah, the most recently released iMac can outperform the iMac Pro. So it's kind of weird. Um, Sort of unrelated, but what do you do with the phones you review and keep for a little while but don't keep long term? Usually sell them or send them back for the most part. Could be a good name for it. Yeah, maybe just Mac, but it's so vague though that it would be hard to refer to because you would have to specify it as something. Just like we don't say the iPad because that's very specific. So we say the budget iPad or iPad 8. You couldn't really get away with that with just saying the Mac. I think everyone would end up saying the regular Mac, So it's kind of weird. Thoughts on Apple glasses? I want them to come out, but they always seem to be 2 or 3 years away. We were talking about Apple Glass way back in 2017, coming out in 2020, and here we are, and we're like, someday. So if there's some kind of concrete or reputable leaks coming out for them, I would love to chat more about them, and I would love to see them come out, but I don't know. This doesn't feel like it's anytime soon, to be honest. Yeah, I would buy Apple glasses for sure. If they do what I think they're gonna do, which is like motion tracking and you can put visuals on my face and I can see 3D holograms in real time, that kind of thing. Yeah, I would totally buy that. That sounds awesome. Even if it was thousands of dollars, I would probably buy it. But I from what the leaks are saying, doesn't really feel like it's coming around the corner. Feels like it's years away still. Apple Car, if anything, has been almost completely canceled. I don't know. There's definitely not been any recent leaks about it. They've had a car project since 2014, actually. I think Project Titan has been around for 6 years, but it's important to keep in mind, people. Patents, uh, rumors, leaks, they're not guaranteed, especially when it comes to moonshot projects like the Apple Car or Apple Glasses. There are all kinds of teams and developments internally at Apple, foldable iPhones, that kind of thing. There's all kinds of internal prototypes and internal testing, but that does not mean it's ever going to come out. There's all kinds of stuff they work on that they never release. You got to keep that in mind. It won't be thousands of dollars. They want it to be a success. Yeah, I'm just saying. A lot of products ended up being more expensive than people anticipated. I remember very, very vividly before the Apple Watch came out, everyone saying, well, there's no way they can price it over $200, otherwise it'll flop. Genuinely, I remember everyone saying that. No joke. It's not even that long ago, to be honest. I remember I was in school and everyone kept saying $200. That's about the maximum they could get away with. But if it's more than $200, no one's gonna buy it. Here we are. Everyone's dropping $500, $800 on watches. And somewhat similar thing with AirPods. I remember when there were the first leaks that Apple was working on their own wireless headphones, and everyone said maybe $100. You could probably, if it's just the same as the little earbuds that come with the iPhone, maybe $100 they could get away with. But if it's at over $100, no one would buy it. The quality would be terrible. wireless headphones aren't going to be worth more than $100. Then they come out $160, and then the second gen comes out $200. AirPods Pro $250, and we all gotta get used to it. So my point is, what you think the glasses are worth doesn't matter, because Apple will dictate for themselves what the product can do. And if they are as amazing as what I'm imagining, of something that can display holograms and you can add displays to your Mac and you can't get it elsewhere, Apple's able to dictate the value of things. You know, most people did not spend $500 on phones when the iPhone came out, and that's how much it was. And that was on contract, I believe, too. It was very expensive, but Apple then decided this is how much our product is worth, and take it or leave it. And then we all end up paying more than we thought for it, but we end up getting a product we enjoyed. So, yeah, I think if Apple decides that the glasses are worth $1,000 or more, they could very easily get people to start expecting to pay for that. Even if you're like, no, but it couldn't. It's like, it's not up to you. Apple gets to decide what it's worth. Yeah, even accessories for iPhones can be expensive. It's an accessory that lets you see 3D holograms. You know how many things could be made possible if you could see 3D holograms? If no one else is offering it on the market, then you can't call it overpriced. You know? AirPods are an iPhone accessory, but people were shocked when they ended up costing $160. No, I don't wear glasses or contacts or any kind. Do you think that we're going to get an orange iPhone because of the invite? No. Maybe a navy blue. That rumor's been around for a long time, but yeah, I don't trust John on that leak. Sorry, don't buy it. He also said that there was a video of it he watched but couldn't release, and we never saw it. So I don't know. Imagine if you could just add any display. Imagine if you know how you guys like picture in picture. You're on Twitch right now. A lot of you probably running iOS 14. You can just close picture in picture, right? Go to do a different app, and you've got me minimized. With Apple glasses, you could take that picture in picture and move it outside of the iPhone display. Put it alongside the phone, or better yet, slap it on the wall in front of you. You guys are sitting in a living room, in a bedroom, and you're just like, I want to have Drew on in the background. Picture in picture. Slam! Now you're watching me on an 80-inch TV because you got AR glasses. Or your phone's sitting across the room and you get a text message. Boom! The text pops out from the phone. You can see it from all the way over there, thanks to the ultra-wideband chip. Say you're sitting at your desk with your iMac. You're like, I want more external monitors. Shunk, shunk. You just add 2 extra monitors. Put a giant one up here. I could put a 40-inch monitor right above my iMac. If you were to do all of those things without augmented reality, it would cost you $5,000, $6,000. But with Apple glasses, it's only $1,000. See, I just told you. That's exactly how Apple could pitch it. I don't buy his leak that it will cost $500, or that's the goal they're getting to. Obviously, it would be great if they were, but I just don't know of any supply chains that could provide Apple with hologram and eye tracking hardware that would hit price points that low. No one else is doing that. It's not really possible. I would say it will be between $1,500 and $3,000 depending on features. I will say it's not a bad idea to overestimate the price. You know, no one thought the Pro Display XDR was going to cost $6,000, and then it did. And AR glasses are obviously very new. There's not a lot of competition right now. There's not a lot of companies making things that could do what Apple is pitching. And with that being the case, they can get away with charging a whole lot for these glasses, even if it's just an iPhone accessory. It's the darn near coolest iPhone accessory of all time. I'd be down for Drew slamming Surface Duo 2 on my living room wall with my HomePods outputting his disappointment. Yes, imagine the disappointment you could output. Yeah, but if he says it's because of his sources, then how do we know it ever exists at all? Yeah, I'll rock the 12 mini before the Pro Max release, sure. I plan on, from the beginning, I've always planned on getting the 12 mini and the Pro Max, because I've reviewed 2 6.1-inch iPhones before, so I kind of have that impression. And there's 2 drastically different form factors with the iPhone this year. Smallest one we've seen in 7 years, and it doesn't have a home button. Smallest iPhone without a home button ever, and it's still got Face ID and OLED and all that. And then we're also getting the largest iPhone of all time. So I thought it would be the most interesting to review the smallest and the biggest. So ever since the beginning, that's been the plan. That plan hasn't changed. There were all kinds of leaks and rumors leading up to the standalone monitor in 2019. People are like, oh, Apple's going to make a new standalone monitor. It'll probably be around $2,000 or so. Comes out $6,000. It's like, oh my god. Yeah. The idea that Apple sets the price and we follow is absolutely stupid. The first Apple TV was almost $400 and didn't sell. They had to lower the price not even a full year later, and the second gen was only $99. We dictated what we would pay. Was the second gen $99? They ended up raising it though, and it wasn't what Apple was telling us to pay. My previous example, the MacBook Air's price was almost cut in half in 2010, only 2 years after it was introduced. I mean, there's a point to be made there, I agree, but you also can't discredit all of the points I brought up. There's some examples where they release a product and it doesn't do well, so they lower the price, but that is not to insinuate that Apple has to release it at $500. If anything, your argument just proved that Apple would release it at $1,500, see not much success, and then lower the price in the second and third generations. But you have to admit, like, there's a lot of products they announced that were way more expensive than what most people thought would be worth it, and then it ended up being popular. Airpods were like 70 or 60% more than what most people said they should have costed, and the Apple Watch was like 80 or 90% more expensive than what most people said they should have costed, and they still ended up being super popular. iPhones were expensive from the beginning, and they just got more expensive over time. Yeah, they made more budget-friendly ones, but your argument doesn't prove that they would release glasses at 500. It proves that they would start it high and then work their way lower over time. The first Apple TV was $300 for 40 gigs or $400 for 160 gigs. Yeah, but we can't necessarily say that it kept going down, though. The second gen was $100 with 8 gigs of flash, and then the tvOS Apple TV went back up to 180, right? Then they increased the price and decided that's what you're going to pay for it. I mean, it's a good point that sometimes they do adjust prices to meet the market, but I still think that when it comes to, I would say the Apple TV was more of an exception, not a rule. What if we fuse all the Apple products, the iPhone, Pad Pro, XDR, Mini Max, SE 2010 with Apple Pencil support? That's a wonderful idea. Why has no one thought of this? That's way too optimistic. But thinking that Apple's going to introduce a product targeted towards consumers that's an iPhone accessory for almost $3,000 is absolutely ridiculous. There has to be a happy medium between them making profits and consumer actually willing to purchase. Well, I never came forward straight up and said $3,000. I agree that that would be absolutely ridiculous. I'm just saying you're also agreeing that it's not going to be $500. I think we agree more than you're making it out to be here. My point is the hardware that currently they would have to scale cannot be sold at $500 for Apple Glass to work. Like, for them to make a pair of glasses that actually can augment 3D objects in front of you, the tech cannot be scaled down to that price point, which is why my point from the beginning was not about why it has to be $3,000. My point is that it will more than likely be over $500 because and people were arguing earlier that $500 is reasonable because they want Apple Glass to succeed. So the only way for it to succeed is for it to be $500. My point is no, it can succeed and be more than that. And be closer to the $1,000 price category, even if it is an iPhone accessory, because that doesn't demean it, in my opinion. Being an iPhone accessory, if anything, is just a benefit. It's a perk at that point, because all you're doing is, like, Apple knows the majority of their user market has iPhones, so they might as well sell things to keep you interested in staying on iPhone and staying within the iOS ecosystem. They'll have a whole events that are just about staying within iOS, like the services event. Apple's whole push is towards services now just because that keeps you more closely tied to iOS. It creates you as a more loyal customer, like the whole event of Apple Card, Apple Arcade, Apple News Plus, Apple TV Plus, all of that is just to keep you tied to the iOS platform. And if the glasses are truly able to do things that no other product on the market can do, and it's unmatched, then they can charge whatever they want, frankly, and still get away with it. Just like the Pro Display XDR. It's way more expensive than other standalone monitors, but they don't care because no other monitor, in their opinion, can provide that extreme dynamic range. There are $600 AR glasses without motion tracking. Those, I know exactly what $600 AR glasses you're referring to, and all they do is display the time in a little corner of your vision. There's no LiDAR, there's no motion tracking of any kind. If you were to add in the motion tracking and want visuals to actually move around the room as you're moving your head, that would require way more hardware. So the point is, $600 AR glasses without motion tracking that just display the time and the weather and maybe a text message, that's $600 to actually get the true smart glasses that we imagine that would work with iPhone and have, gaming performance, or you could slap visuals anywhere you're looking and external monitors and TVs and that kind of thing. Easily right now, I would be well north of $1,000, I would say. Let's see. Apple is using its budget products like the $400 iPhone to get people into the ecosystem, hoping they'll subscribe to the services, then hopefully stay in the ecosystem and buy more expensive devices in the future. I agree, David. I think that is the plan, and having high-priced accessories is not a death sentence. There's a reason the Apple Watch edition existed. Apple Glass Tom Brown edition. Yes, exactly. I think for Apple to sell the AR glasses for above $1,000, they have to be compatible with the Mac and iPad, unlike the Apple Watch, which is only compatible with iPhones. I don't think so. I think they're pretty confident that if you have a Mac or an iPad, you probably have an iPhone in the first place. And the glasses you're going to want to take around and wear with you, as the iPhone does all the heavy lifting. So I could see them making them an iPhone only accessory type thing, but they can still work. My Apple Watch unlocks my Mac. There's certain compatibility that the glasses and the watches can work with the iPads and have continuity with the Mac, but not pair exclusively to them. It would be nice if they did, but what do you think of the idea of Apple having an investment app like Robinhood embedded in the Stocks app, Stocks Plus? That's too good of an idea. You're probably going to give them a good one now. Yeah, I could see them doing that. I mean, I haven't heard anything of them doing that, but it wouldn't shock me to be like, hey, let's build in an investment section to the Stocks app. But then I would get more ads in the Stocks app, which only reason I use the Stocks app right now is it's a great way to use Apple News and not have to get bombarded with the News Plus stuff. You heard about that Apple Arcade Plus rumor, so the cloud streaming service? I don't know if they would release that. It would immediately create an antitrust. I don't think that's what... Is that what the leak was, Dexus? I briefly saw an Apple Arcade Plus rumor, but that sounded dumb, so I instantly didn't believe it. But if it is real and there is some version of Apple Arcade Plus... I imagine it would just be a higher tier version of Arcade with more AAA type games. I don't think it would be a cloud streaming service. Maybe, but I doubt it. For that exact reason, like you said, it would create a huge antitrust because Apple would be allowed to do it, but Microsoft and everyone else couldn't. That was supposed to be a cloud streaming service, according to the leak. Yeah, I doubt that. If they do, I agree with you. Yes, that would create a huge problem. That's why I doubt it. That's why I don't believe they're going to release their own. The patents for the Apple Car are so interesting and impressive. It's stuff that we've never seen before, and maybe they'll redesign some key elements of cars. I would say not to underestimate the Apple Car as inferior to Tesla's. I will underestimate the Apple Car, except no, I'm not underestimating it. For one, most recent reports is that they have disbanded most of Project Titan. They've kind of let go a lot of the employees, so that isn't a good look. They've also slowed down hiring of prior auto experts. So in previous years, they used to hire a lot of people from the automotive industry. In the last couple of years, they haven't done that anymore. So it's not looking likely. If anything, they're just working on software for full self-driving, but highly unlikely that they would actually release a car at this point, mainly because as someone who's a big fan and a huge follower of Tesla and covers them regularly on my EV channel, I know how hard and how unprofitable it is for a company to create in scale electric vehicles. And it's also an incredibly saturated market as is, with dozens of startups and dozens of companies trying to beat Tesla. And just from the simple fact that Apple has not announced one right now, they're already late. They're already years and years and years behind Tesla for the simple fact that they have not announced one. And even if they did announce one, they would still be 5 to 10 years behind because Tesla's got the supercharger network, they've got the battery scaling, they've got the autonomous driving data, and finding a way to make batteries cheap enough in a way that is actually profitable. Apple's not interested in making an Apple car because it's not a profitable business model. It took Tesla, I think, 10 or 11 years before they were actually able to turn a profit. And you need giant factories that are non-existent. Foxconn isn't going to build the Apple car. The fact that Tesla has 3 or 4, maybe 5 gigafactories in the work right now puts them significantly behind Apple if Apple is interested in making the EV. So I don't think it's coming out personally. I don't think they're going to do it. I think all of their energy and efforts are on services right now, and all the leaks and rumors we've heard about the Apple car have just been evident that they're not going to do it, which makes sense. Makes sense. It's very expensive. Tim Cook is a smart guy. Tim Cook has raised the stock price of Apple so significantly, and he's a master of supply chains, and he's a master of moving inventory. And Tim Cook is smart enough to know that if Apple tried to make an electric car, they would lose billions and billions of dollars and not turn a profit for probably a decade, for the sheer amount of investment they would have to make into a factory, into supply chains, into a charging network, because Apple's not the type of company to be like, we'll just piggyback off of Electrify America. If anything, the closest Apple is to being in the EV space is buying out a startup right now. I actually think that would be much more interesting. If they bought out a startup that was just getting ready to launch their first vehicle, like Lucid, for example. I think we've talked about this a few times. But Lucid Air would be a great example because they're going for the luxury car market and they want to go all high price and fancy design with good energy efficiency. And they're definitely not going for high volume, at least at first. They're going for like the luxury auto segment. That's something I could see Apple doing. Probably not Rivian. Amazon's got too much of their hands in Rivian. So I don't see Apple buying them just because the electric pickup doesn't really fit in with the Apple. Because Apple's not about making the most, They have very different... I watched some very interesting videos. Patents don't mean anything, Brian. I hate to break it to you. They had patents for touchscreen iMacs in 2010. It never turned into anything. They also had patents for Touch ID built into the display back in 2016. That never turned into anything. 80% of Apple's patents don't come out into actual everyday products. But the closest Apple is to the EV space is buying one out. They tried to buy Tesla in 2013, and it didn't work out because they wanted Elon Musk to step out. Rivian's not trash. Come on. Don't hate on Rivian. They're cool. Apple would be better to partner with a current traditional car company on an electric car. Exactly. I completely agree. Apple's got tons of capital, but they would be significantly behind everyone if they announced, next week, hey, we're going to make our own car. It would take them years to get a factory. It would take them years to get a charging network. And because of that, they would be significantly behind pretty much everyone in the automotive space. It's not a matter of money, really. Tesla's not short for cash. They got plenty of cash. It's just a matter of how fast can you build factories and how fast can you scale battery production, which Tesla is ahead of everybody in that aspect. That's why they're able to lower the price of the Model 3 in China so well. They're able to undercut all their competition. And they're doing that now. Apple, if they announced a car right now, they probably couldn't deliver it until 2022 at the earliest. Years to get a factory, how? Watch Tesla, because they can build factories faster than anyone on the planet, and it still takes them about a year to go from groundbreaking to producing vehicles. And the fact that Apple hasn't even announced it yet means that they're definitely not interested in doing it anytime soon. Article headline, iPhone foldable confirmed. Actual article. So there's this 100th patent from Apple about foldable screen. Yeah, I know. There's all kinds of crazy patents that never turn into anything. Apple could pull a Polestar and start BMW's EV full self-driving segment, like what Polestar did with Volvo. Wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm not saying it's impossible that Apple could get involved with electric cars. I'm just saying it won't be like we just watch an event one day and they unveil a completely first party designed EV. They're definitely either going to buy someone out or partner with someone. They're going to have someone else do all the risk and do all the work, and then Apple helps with the software or something like that. Let's see. Tesla has the 2020 Roadster coming out in 2021. Yeah, they're late to things, but they're also early to certain things. Let's see. Apple needs to work with Samsung and launch a cyber tank. Yep. High speed means 80% of the event talking about 5G and then 20% everything else. I feel like that's probably it. Again, patents don't mean much, and they've let go lots of people in Project Titan. The leaks from 2015 were saying the Apple Car would come out in 2020, and all they've done is stopped hiring people and started letting go people that were part of the car project. So that's, you wouldn't see that if they were gearing up to ramp production. You would not see them letting go Project Titan employees and stopping hiring if they were planning on releasing one. Apple partners with Sony on their EV. Wait, what? That don't work. I really want the non-pro iPhones to have frosted glass. Oh, that would be cool. I would love that. It probably won't happen, but I agree. That would be awesome. The frosted glass is so much better than the glossy glass. I have a bad feeling that the Apple event will be filled with fluff. Yeah, it probably will, to be honest. The last one was, so they'll probably talk a lot about iOS 14 in this one, stuff we already know. With iOS 14, you can have so many widgets. Apple needs to do a trade-in program for the Airpods, but they can't because they can't reuse them. Yeah, I think you just answered your own question there. That's probably the main reason. Oh, Mike, I was hoping no one would make that joke, and then you had to go ahead and do it. Dang it, Mike. Okay, I'll read it for the people in the back. Project Titan's main issue is figuring out how to eliminate windows. You're lucky we're friends. Apple partners with IBM to get in the car industry. They're just picking a random company. Apple partners with Walmart. Apple buys TikTok. You think there will be enough bells and whistles on the iPhone 12 Pro Max to justify $1,100? It's all falling on LiDAR for me, honestly. I'm kind of not sure if I would even want to go with a Pro iPhone this year because now that I know that it's going to be 60 hertz, and all iPhones are going to have OLED. And I'm using my phone a lot less now. Like, I've tried to detach from my phone more, so I don't have any social media or work apps on my iPhone. And I've noticed that since I've done that, my iPhone is pretty much just for texting, email, and like finance, like checking my bank account and checking the wallet app. Very basic stuff. So I'm like, do I really need a 6.7-inch display just for all that? Maybe I should be fine with a mini iPhone. So I'm thinking about maybe keeping the 12 mini, but I need to see the features the Pro iPhones offer, and I'll come to a conclusion based on that. But anyways, I got to get going, guys. Appreciate you all watching and tuning in. Yeah, LiDAR in its current state, if it's just like the 2020 iPad Pro and that's it, then yeah, I think I would just stick with the 12 mini. But if there's some type of feature that's a bit more noticeable than just LiDAR, if they have some kind of portrait mode and video support, then I would be more inclined to get the Pro Max. But we'll see. We'll find out. Either way, I'll get both and review them. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care, y'all. Bye-bye.